If you joined me for the first episode, you'll know I explored a fundamental problem in the world of hearing. That despite all the science, the prescriptions and advancements in hearing aid technology, the industry has often missed the most important thing. And that's people. I want to take that conversation further and talk about how hearing products are engineered with precision, but often without perspective. I'm Don Hudson, and this is Hearing Now. For more than 2 decades as a hearing specialist, I've personally conducted over 10,000 hearing tests and fitted more than 7,000 hearing aids. I've also designed numerous hearing products, many of which are now available globally. I've written hundreds of articles appearing in some of Australia's most trusted publications, and my contributions have been featured in well-known places like Sky News, ABC Radio, the Sydney Morning Herald, and Reader's Digest, all with the goal of helping people just like you to hear better and get the best results available to them. At 74, Michael lives alone, but until recently, he'd never felt lonely. He enjoys a simple life, surrounded by the sounds of nature and his favourite hobby. As a retired carpenter, Michael crafts delicate wooden birds in his backyard workshop. The sounds of this world matter more than most to him. The scrape of a blade against local Huon pine, and the chirping birds that inspire his work. When his hearing started to slip, loneliness crept in. He felt shut out of this gentle way of life, so he mustered the courage to visit a hearing clinic. However, after numerous appointments, fittings and adjustments, Michael came away with a well-researched, impressive, and might I add, expensive pair of hearing aids. But he hated them. Michael wasn't rejecting help. He'd already moved past the stigma and the denial when he entered the clinic. He was rejecting the experience. He told me, "It felt like I was hearing someone else's world. The birds didn't sound like birds. There was a tinniness to them. I could feel the piece of wood in my hands, but it wasn't speaking to me, telling me how to shape it anymore. Even my own voice didn't sound like mine." That last one stuck with me. Even my own voice didn't sound like mine. That's the hidden heartbreak of hearing aid dissatisfaction. The settings may be spot on by clinical standards, perfectly matched to an audiogram, and precisely aligned with a national prescription. But it doesn't matter how perfect the prescription is or how high-tech the device is, if the person wearing it doesn't recognize their own life in the sound. So why does this happen? And how do so many hearing aid wearers find themselves in this unhappy situation? The answer lies in how the hearing aid industry has traditionally worked. It's a model that says, "We'll tell you what you need." In Australia, most hearing aid fittings are guided by research from the National Acoustic Laboratories, NAL for short. They've been developing hearing prescriptions for decades, and these prescriptions help audiologists set up devices based on your test results. While their latest prescription, called NL3, represents a positive shift toward a human-centered approach, even with this progress, something is still missing. No matter how scientifically sound the prescription is, it doesn't guarantee that what you hear will feel right to you. Researchers have known this for a while. In 2018, Dr. Beck Bennett, a researcher at the Ear Science Institute of Australia, reported in the Ear and Hearing Journal that up to 30% of people who had been fitted with hearing aids by the clinics involved in her survey either do not use them or perceive little to no benefit. I believe the main reason for that isn't technical, it's emotional. People don't identify with the sound they're given. They don't like the setting they've been prescribed. Because it's not them. It's not their world, at least not the way they want to hear it. And when people feel they don't have a say, they disengage. They stop wearing the hearing aids. They feel helpless, like they've been handed a solution they're not allowed to change or challenge. I mentioned in the previous episode that there was a quiet revolution underway, a shift toward self-managed hearing care. And that's being led by the rise of over-the-counter devices. Now, these ready-to-use devices aren't just about cost, though yes, they're significantly more affordable. They're about power, because when you buy an over-the-counter device, the power shifts from the clinician to you. You get to make adjustments. You get to choose what sounds right. You get to decide when the birds sound like birds again. And that's what happened to Michael. After months of ignoring his clinic-prescribed hearing aids, Michael gave over-the-counter devices a go. At first, he was unsure. It felt like stepping into a world he didn't understand. But slowly, something changed, and he started tweaking the settings as he listened to his favorite Seekers album while he walked through his garden. Then one afternoon, while sanding down a wooden bird's beak, he paused. There it was, the high ringing call of a green rosella against the rhythm of his own breath. It was his world again, and he had brought it back. So what did the industry miss about real people? They missed the most fundamental truth, that no one wants to be fitted into a formula. People want to feel seen, heard, and in control. That's why the rise of self-managed hearing care with over-the-counter devices is so powerful. Not because it bypasses expertise, but because it gives people back their agency, their voice, their sound. Hearing aid rejection is often not rooted in stubbornness, but in emotional disconnection. Why is it that so many people still feel embarrassed or just unsure about using a hearing aid? I invite you to listen to the next episode on the sound of stigma and how it was able to take hold. Thanks for listening. I'm Don Hudson, and I hope you'll join me again on Hearing Now.